Welcome. I decided to do this live just out of the blue, I guess. I had originally planned on doing my Q&A series right away, but I have just been trying to listen to myself and my own needs, and I just need to slow it down. And so I postponed a few days, and so I decided, well, I don't have anybody booked this week, so might as well just do my own Q&A if you're curious. So welcome, hello, thanks for joining. So I went back into the 90s. I put my Halloween scrubs today. I don't know if anybody saw my stories, and I was like, might as well keep this cool accessory on. So if you hate spiders, my apologies. So welcome. I wrote down a few questions that people had already put into the Q&A box. So I'm going to start off with those. If you have anything specific, whether it's about questions about me personally, with my journey, with studying, or my job that I do now, I'm happy to answer those. But I'll just go ahead on the questions that have already been asked. So to start off, a good question was, when did I know that TR would be my career? There's no set in time moment that I can think of, but I definitely had a good idea when I was doing my volunteering and placements, just from my experience working with people, and I just knew it was a good gig. So I just went all for it. Hi everybody who just joined. I'm just sharing when I knew TR would be my career, and so I think it's really the hands-on experience I got even before getting my rec therapist job per se. I was applying what I was learning in courses, and I just loved it, and it did something for me. And so we definitely always just need to follow that feeling right inside. So I'm happy I followed through, and I still feel like this is definitely the right path that I took. There's no doubt, I feel like any professional questions where they're at. Even if somebody like me, who I do feel really passionate about what I do, one of the questions was, do I have any second thoughts on my career, or have I even considered something else? I for sure had that second thoughts. I mean, especially earlier in the year, I've dealt with compassion fatigue, and I've definitely learned how to work through my boundaries. I don't think that's specific to rec therapy per se. I think that's just in general, in healthcare or any job you would have, just working with people, helping people. It's just kind of human nature to care and want to help others. When I started out, I just didn't know what those boundaries looked like. So it was a little tricky for me, but I never really thought of necessarily anything specific other than rec therapy, to be honest. I maybe considered what other settings would look like. Do I want to be in the community? Do I want to stay in healthcare? For sure, those questions have crossed my mind. I've never really gone more than that, other than thoughts coming through my mind. So I don't know if that's hopefully answering some questions, but I just feel like it's normal for us to just guess, second guess, okay, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing here? We'll never know the right answer. I think it's just being true to yourself. I know that sounds cheesy, but just kind of self-checking with yourself to be like, okay, am I really happy here? And if not, then exploring what is it that's really draining me. Sometimes it's just questions. hey Jenna. Jenna worked with me where I'm at now. So yeah, I just feel like it's normal. And I do think when I went through my process of like compassion fatigue and burnout, I definitely questioned where I was at, but by no means where I was digging deeper, by no means that I had to do with my job as a rec therapist. I think it was just in terms of boundaries and just the fact that we're all working through a pandemic, so that's exhausting. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit where we've just been go, go, go this whole time. So definitely boundaries and just figuring out what is that really that's making you question something else. For me, it was just figuring out my own boundaries in my job. So I'm just answering questions that people have asked throughout my story. Feel free to comment any other questions that you may have for me. I realized that this was the whole reason why I created this page, was to connect with others and to just talk about all things rec therapy related. So kind of an open book. And speaking of knowing our boundaries and doing things that are meaningful, definitely these Q&As have just really been helpful for me to kind of create that connection and feel like I can contribute in some way. So this has just been a nice thing for me. So thank you for being here and listening in. So another question that was asked was what type of setting I'd most want to work at. And I guess the second piece to that is what setting would I absolutely not work in. So I feel like where I'm at now, working with people with spinal cord injuries and brain injuries, I'm really enjoying that. So I never thought that I would want to be in a rehab setting. My practice started in long-term care. I absolutely love working with seniors. So I work with people of all ages in my current position. So anytime a senior comes in, then, I don't know what it is exactly with seniors. I just have that love for working with them. So anybody can relate with working with any different population. So I just feel with the experience that I have now, I love working with people with spinal cord injury. We just got a research grant approved of exploring peer support. So I would love to be working in that domain for sure, of providing peer support or resources with people with physical disabilities. A setting that I don't think I would enjoy. This is why I love, while I was hey Jess, thanks for stopping by. Just answering some questions here. I feel like figuring out what type of setting you don't want to work in. This is the joy of being a student when you do some volunteering, because people know you're a student. People know you're just trying things out. I realized young children is definitely not a population I see myself necessarily working in. It's just nothing specific. It hasn't been an experience I've had that really clicked with me. And most of the time you mostly deal with the parents and it's a lot less direct. So for me, that just doesn't, isn't something that I enjoy. So, but any other setting, I'm open to learning all the time. So I think that's kind of the joy of always being open, is trying things out. And so nothing specific other than just working with kids comes up. And another question, again, feel free to comment any questions that might come up. Another question, I know there's a few students that are following my account. So maybe you're studying for CTRS exam. Good luck. I know it's really stressful. So somebody asked, what did I do to help me study for the CTRS exam? So what has helped me, everyone will have so many different answers. What really helped me was having a study group with some friends. I personally learn better when I'm able to talk things through and kind of do kind of a verbal test. So I found that really helpful. At times I really have to self-check myself. If I was getting too stressed, I had to be mindful enough to say, like, this isn't a good time, because sometimes it can be more anxiety provoking than productive. So just be mindful about that. And the practice exams. Practice exam I found that were really helpful. Maybe the first exam I was finding, okay, they give you a percentage of what section how well you did. I found that really helpful in studying in terms of what sections do I need to study more on. So that was good practice, and it really showed me, okay, I know my stuff. I could kind of relax a little more. I found also, this was after I did my certification, but Grow Through Flow, Megan Young, has a blog, and when she created her own study guide, which she posted on her blog. It's free and it's really great to follow. So I definitely recommend that. Others have shared too, that they just look online and they just find other free guides. So that's really helpful too. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents on studying for the exam. It's a stressful time. I feel you if you are studying. I feel you if you're just overall working through this pandemic. It's stressful time, so just remember to take care of yourself. And actually, Jess has a really good question for that. So her question is, how are you taking care of yourself as a therapist who is in constant compassion and caregiver mode? Oh, yes. Amazing question. I have been learning that through the past years. I really getting to know myself. Funny enough, I love to share this with my own clients when I use some assessment tools. I use some of the assessment tools that I use on my clients. So how can I know to take care of myself? I know I love nature, so nature is a given, automatic. I found even just being barefoot in just on the grass, on a path, just who cares if people see you barefoot and they're like, what are you doing? It feels so good and grounding. So for myself, I know nature's a given. But other than that, I'm like, I like to journal. That's how I process things a lot of the time. I just kind of work. I was like, okay, I really need to work through that. So I just kind of I have an assessment tool to help clients for just leisure awareness and just identify leisure interests. So I was like, why not? And then I identify your own personal needs. So I've used that. And a huge thing that came up, it might seem contradicting to some people, but I started volunteering. Again, giving myself boundaries. So I only commit to 1 to 2 hours a month of Meals on Wheels. So I noticed a pattern of, I love to go drive. I love driving. I'm in a small city, so I don't do much of that. I love helping people. Of course, because I'm a rec therapist, so I'm already doing that. But I was like, what can I do that doesn't require me being one-on-one, having to be a therapist to a person outside of my work time. And Meals on Wheels seemed to be a good fit. I do my drive. It's a quick hello. I'm helping others. I'm contributing in my own way. So I found that was kind of doing a lot of check marks for me. So taking care of yourself, really get to know yourself. You know, again, like where I'm close to burnout, obviously it seems contradicting of, oh, well, you're volunteering your time. Well, yes, but I put a boundary for myself. I'm definitely like 2 hours is my max, and I'm really respecting that for myself. And eating really good foods. I've really been trying to get into cooking and doing that with my partner, making it an experience rather than a task. So again, how can I make that task more enjoyable? Because we have no choice but to eat. So I just put music, I put a podcast, and it's a good time. And I'm good friends with dietitian at work, so she gives me good recipes as well. And so to go back with the assessment that I used, it's the leisure battery tool. It's very tweaked up for our center. I can send that to you, Jess, if you're interested. It's like a three section assessment, and I just find it really helpful. The other part why I found the last part helpful of identifying your personal needs is that when you reach that point of being really tired, you don't want to think about, oh, what do I have to plan? Like, what can I do? And it's a lot of mental energy. So having that sheet of paper of already identifying what your personal needs are and what leisure activity supports that need, it's there. You're just like, oh, what do I feel? What do I feel like? And then it's taken out from what you wrote, so you don't really have to think about it. So it's a good thing. I always suggest clients to just put it on your fridge for a bit if you're struggling with managing with your time management, to make sure you're engaging in meaningful leisure for yourself. And yeah, Jess, it also helps Jess says it also helps take your attention away from your work and allows you to stay balanced. 100%. It's a work in progress, but I think the best you get to know yourself and getting that balance, it's an ongoing process. And we change as people too, so it's always good to I'm definitely not going to have the same list now versus, in 20 years. So between that time is just going through your phases of life, just checking yourself, right? So yeah, the leisure battery is definitely, it is from the Idle Arbor. We did do a few edits and made it more applicable to our population. So it's all about adapting. So Jenna, hello. Thanks. Thanks. She's loving the Halloween attire. Gotta stay in season. So Jenna's asking, what do you find most rewarding as a rec therapist within neurorehab? Good question. The most rewarding, I find the most rewarding is when we're able to find, as a team, whether it's just me one-on-one with the client or, the team, we figure out how to tend to the client's need in the way that's best for them at that moment. So it looks so different for everybody while they're inpatients because they're new injuries, so everybody's at different levels of readiness. But sometimes it's so simple, and we really, I mentioned how nature really helps me. Sometimes just when clients are all they're asking is going outside, and we're able to provide that, like the OTs helping them to be independent in their power wheelchair, for example. So they're working on their wheelchair skills, and just the simple act of breathing fresh air is helpful for them. Sometimes we just, we expect our job to be so much bigger, but a lot of the times it's just, that's rewarding in itself, that you're contributing to the person's coping, healthy coping. And I love finding new ways to adapt leisure to leisure engagement. So I find it really rewarding when I'm able to figure some of those pieces out, and for that client to be able to independently pursue that leisure, even if it's just have an adapted mouse to be able to answer emails and scroll Instagram, right? I find that really rewarding. Yeah, so that's kind of my answers to those questions, and thank you for asking the questions and sticking around to listen. I truly appreciate all this connection that I've made with everybody, and just you being around. So thanks, Jenna, and thanks, Jess, for those questions. If you have any questions after this, if you're watching this once and it's not live, shoot me a message, and I'm really happy to chat. So happy Halloween. Enjoy. Keep that. One thing that came up for me is making sure you're tending to like that inner child that's just wants to have fun all the time. That's something that's really helped me throughout this pandemic, is why not have fun? Like as a kid, I used to love to dress up, and I mean, I still do for Halloween, but even the leaves, like I see a big pile, I'm walking down the street, I see the big pile, and I'm like, ooh, this is really tempting to kind of throw everywhere. I'm like, why not? This is fun. And then I just chuckle to myself, and I'm like, oh, that's a good time, so it doesn't have to be big things. But really it's the little things sometimes. So really take care of yourself that way. Tend to that little inner child that just wants to play. Play is for everybody, and it doesn't go away whatever age you are, wherever you're at in your life. So please take care of yourself. And that being said, do what you want with your evening. I hope you incorporate some play in there. And yeah, I know I'm gonna run myself a nice little bath. Thank you, everybody. Happy Halloween.